Welcome, here we are. I got some fun stuff to share. So bear with me. You're going to listen to me one last time here on Ed Day. So we've had an official 3-year break from doing Education Day. And that, of course, is due to COVID. So we gave our little whirl of doing a virtual link. That didn't go over real well, but we tried. So for those in the room that are new, we all feel like it's new, I think, because we've had such a gap in time. So my name is Lisa Evert, and I am the president with the Midwest Rett Syndrome Foundation. I have been that president, I don't know, I haven't counted, but I think somewhere out of 16 of 21 years that we've been around. So I've met many of you, but honestly, it's so awesome that we have so many new families that I just met now today or just last fall. So that's very nice. So I am a mom to my daughter Jill. She's our only child. She's 25. We live down in Faribault, Minnesota, town of about 25,000. With my husband Chuck, who's here. He's my backup assistant, do everything person. So here's our fun facts, just to give you a lay of the land. If you didn't get told this at check-in, so you have your name badge that has your name and your town, but then that number is the age of your daughter with Rett syndrome. Does anybody have a son with Rett? I don't think so today, so I don't want to misspeak, but I don't think anybody has a boy with Rett. We're all girls today. So the age of your daughter, and that is for networking, mingling, ice-breaking. I've always found that helpful in conferences that I've gone to, so you can go to break, go to lunch, and have a little connection to make and meet new people. So this number blew me away. When I went through the registration report, we have 13 families in this room that have never done this before. That is a big, big number, which I know it got bigger because we've had a 3-year gap, and unfortunately that means there were 3 years of new diagnosis going on, and that's sad. But the good news is we're here to do these things. We're here to support you. But 13. So knowing that, I'm going to try to be very mindful of that throughout the day and not make a lot of assumptions that we know a lot of things, because I've been doing that for 21 years and then year one for so many. So then I can't guarantee everybody is here. We had a few people not make it last minute, but based on registration, age of our daughters is 3 at the youngest to 39. So did I miss that at all? Do we have a 2 or a 40 plus? I don't think so. So quite a span. And I didn't make note of this, but I think we're at about a dozen families that are 21 years age and up. So that's a pretty big number of older families coming, and usually they say, been there, done that, I don't need to come. But so 13 brand new families and at least a dozen that have been around and experienced. So because of all of that newness, I just thought it would be very appropriate to give a little rundown of who are we as a foundation and why are you sitting in this room. There's a long story behind that, but I'll put it together in some slides. So our foundation, we are a nonprofit based here in Minnesota. We actually got started back year one as the Minnesota Rett Syndrome Research Association, but through pushing largely of Dr. Bising at Gillette, the patient base was always the 5-state area and sometimes beyond. And so for several years, they pushed us to change our name and not sound so inclusive of Minnesota only, and we went with Midwest. And so that happened about 9 years ago. So we are now Midwest Rett Syndrome Foundation. So we got started day one back in 2002, and it was actually April of 2002. Dan and Lisa Brinkhouse were our founding parents. They live in New Prague, and they have daughter Sarah with Rett, and she's approximately 23 now, and their son Ryan, who's finishing up year one college in Duluth. And they're not here today, but they get all the credit of basically how we would ever get here was thanks to Dan and Lisa. Then what happened, I joined the board day one, so I've been part of this since day one. Our daughter Jill, was diagnosed at Gillette in the year 2000, and my husband and I said, all right, we've got an interesting path ahead of us. We want a specialty clinic for Rett here, and largely back then, we had no idea what treatment and cure or what that even would mean, but I just knew that if that became available in any fashion, I wanted it here. And at the time, when she was diagnosed, the understanding we had as parents is that treatment for Rett might have meant going to Chicago or East Coast or down to Texas, and I had no interest in putting my kid on a plane and flying to find treatment for her. I wanted it here. Very selfish reasons, we wanted it here. So we pushed that. Gillette was open to it. I went to the board, our board. They embraced it immediately, and so we took that idea forward, and that clinic actually launched in 2007. And then an extremely awesome day for us, and certainly for me, was when that clinic became a center of excellence under the standards of the International Rett Syndrome Foundation. And that happened in 2017. And there we are. We did one of these same Ed days that year. We did a Friday night gathering of lots of fun and a mixture of the MRSF people, our Gillette people, our U of M people. We made some donations that night, and there we are, happy and quite an accomplishment. And in particular, we have our Dr. Fima, Dr. Beising, and at the time, executive director was Gordy Rich. He's since stepped away, but he is also a Rett dad himself. And that plaque is hanging in Gillette somewhere. I'm not sure where it is, but I've seen it. Maybe you've seen it. So along the way, we started Education Day, of course, probably by year 3. But the collaboration that we've had all these years between our parent foundation and Gillette and the university, we have seen this unfold, and we've been told by people that certainly I look up to, that this has become a proven role model of how you support families, which is really our role. But we need that providing of day-to-day care, we all know that, while we're conducting meaningful research. And so we're able to accomplish all of those things over all of these years. So we've got 21 years and counting of our foundation. We've been 100% volunteer-driven from day one. Nobody gets paid, which is not a great sales pitch for me to say, hey, don't you want to help me? No pay. It's all due to our passion and dedication. I will say we have 9 board members right now. Some of them are here, and I'll introduce. 7 are parents of someone with Rett. 2 are not. And so we largely have been a board of parents, but don't need to be. I don't have the exact number, but I can prove that we've reached $800,000 that we've raised for different fundraising efforts since we began. And largely the money that we raise gets used to support Gillette, to support the International Rett Syndrome Foundation, and then our other local efforts are things like this Ed Day, picnics, other things that we've done here and there over the years. So our fundraising, I wanted to add this in to maybe inspire you in the room to do your own fundraising or help us with what we are continuing to do. A fun one is our very first fundraiser was a golf tournament in Lakeville, Minnesota, Heritage Links. Some of us were there. We raised $40,000, but the funnest thing ever is we did one of those hole-in-one contests for a brand new truck, and somebody won. I'll never forget that moment. Yeah. It was October and drizzly rain like this. They all got out and golfed, and we came in, and they were screaming that somebody got the hole-in-one. And he really did meet the criteria, and he got the truck. So we did about 16 years then of golf and gala type formats. We've sold cookbooks. We've sold calendars. We've had things like chili competitions. We've got parents that have ran marathons. We even had a fashion show one year. And the bold there is where we're landing right now. We have efforts going on related to hockey tournaments here in Minnesota, and that's been summer or winter or both might happen. So that's ongoing. It's on the display board, but our next summer hockey is July and in Edina. That's listed out on our board. And then the other thing that we're continuing to do, I think we have 3 years under our belt, but what we're calling a fall food festival. So food, music, silent auction, that kind of thing. So those two are ongoing. There's one of our hockey years, the one that was the most fun, I think, for me. I don't really follow hockey, but we had an hour of ice time and got our girls out there, and so it was a blast. My daughter actually was being pushed by Frank, there's Frank, our U of M guy, and a hockey player from Canada even. He was pushing her around, and I got a little nervous because, man, they were zooming. But anyway, my daughter is here. Oh, I have a clicker. Oh, geez. What did I do? Sure, there's little Jill right there. She's in a little Oilers jersey. And then we have little Lily Knutson and Bennett Doms, who are both here today. So anyway, just to give you a little taste, I think it was that same year, part of our fundraising, we did a first-time request to submit proposals for us to spend our money, and what we landed on was the eye tracker machine that's still being used. They needed another one to be housed at Gillette, making it easier for you to have appointments and do the study, and so we gave them $40,000 to buy this really fancy machine, right, Brianne? Anyway, but we were happy to do that, and it all plays a part in our world of fundraising. And so I had to throw that in. That's obviously the summer hockey year with Frank in flip-flops. And my daughter Jill, and I don't know that other man. Who is that other man? Is that one of Frank's team members? Ice Cats. All right, that's what I thought. And behind them, that goofy moose-looking thing is the trophy. All right, and then wrapping up some recent fundraising and where we've spent our money. So this past December, we gave $10,000 to Gillette. We actually have a Rett syndrome fund at Gillette, and so that money is plopped there for Rett purposes only. So that donation was just made. And we did $50,000 also last December to the International Rett Syndrome Foundation, and we did that virtually because Melissa Kennedy is out in Ohio, and this was a lot more effective. I'm in my basement. So that brings us to a little background that you need on Ed Day itself. So why are we sitting here? How are we sitting here? What's been happening? So Rett Ed Day started way back in the beginning. It was actually 2005 that we informally kicked off Rett Clinic and Ed Day, and that was 18 years ago, which is fascinating to me. Sad too. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to know that there's a lot of you sitting out here that probably as parents weren't even dating, much less a child, and we were doing this, right? That hit me about a year ago, and that didn't make me feel good from an age perspective, but anyway, I say all that because I can take so much for granted because I've been doing this for so long that I don't want to discount where you're at and fill in the blanks. So what we did back in 2005 is we asked Dr. Alan Percy, who is a rock star of Rett. I don't know how many know him. He's technically sort of retired. I question it. But anyway, Dr. Percy came here. We were at a hotel over by the Mall of America, and he came to lead us, educate us, be our mentor of how to start doing some of these things well. He's out of Birmingham, Alabama. And like I said, he says he retired last year. At the conference, some of you were at the conference in Nashville for Ascend. So I found him on our way to the airport. He was getting in his car, and we were getting into our taxi, and I yelled at him, and I had to give him a hug because I that's just what I had to do. So I do question if he's really retired. I don't know. Anyway, so the formal launch of this very Education Day, it's been in multiple locations, but was in 2007. And that's when we welcomed immediately Gillette and the University of Minnesota. The three of us have been doing this all these years. But in particular, my lead-in to the next segment here is some of those years, what I called the Gordy and Steve show was part of these Ed Days. Some of you will remember this. So previous to Dominique, who's our current scientific director with the national group, was our scientific director, Steve Kaminsky, and this is actually standing right here. This was Steve's last year presenting. He then did retire, which is how we gained lovely Dominique. We gave him that fun Minnesota plaque to remember us, because he came here many years and was very important to us. That's our board members, who are all still board members. Some of them are here today. Most of them, all of them but one. And there we are. Again, I think it's that screen, and Steve is there. Dr. Beising is there. We are talking about this stuff in this very room. So, the Gordy and Steve show, we talked in this room in 2017, 2018, 2019, all about trofinetide. And it was many years before that it was in the works. But we sat here all those years and wondered and hoped, and phases and trials and updates in this. And now, I'm amazed, but we have a drug. It really got approved. And so you go back to, yes. You go back to why we started that clinic. And here it is. I'm amazed that we got. I'm not amazed because I know you guys do good stuff, but it's just interesting. So what I love that brings this whole thing full circle. Chuck and I said, clinic, we want it here. This collaboration that we've had all these years in the Midwest has allowed local families, and you're up next. I'm going to recognize you. We have local families that played a role in being able to access care, but enroll in trials to get this drug. That's pretty darn cool in my world. So, I want to recognize some people in the room. Our foundation has board members here. Matt Doms, raising his hand. He was in some of those photos. Parent to Bennett, who's in camp, I think, and here with wife Ashley. Kevin Streifel is somewhere. There's Kevin and wife Amber, and they have little Cora that I assume she's in camp. Wonderful. Luke Knutson is here with lovely wife Courtney and beautiful Lillian next door. And Brandon Hofer is our newest member, I think 2 years under his belt. Now, Brandon is interesting. He does not have a child with Rett syndrome. And he, I will say, if you all agree, is our most dedicated, hardworking member right now. He is connected through Knutson's, mostly just, and we have, oh, wait, I didn't have that. Matt Knutson, there you are. I was thinking about this morning. I'm like, I know I got holes to fill. Matt Knutson, also a board member, and uncle to Lillian. So because of the connection of the Knutson hockey dudes here, Mr. Hockey over here joins the group, and he did such an outstanding job with raising money and working hard for us, we put him on our board. But I want to take that a step further, so he's here doing all of our technology today. He's in charge of all these hockey tournaments. He was largely in charge of our last gala. But I got his mom in the kitchen. She's my food lady, my catering coordinator. And I've got his wife over in day camp. You guys are awesome. Thank you. All right, now, just because I want to do this, because I appreciate all these other layers of people, our past board members, there are two, I hope I'm not forgetting any, but Susan Murakami is here. She was part of day one and even earlier than day one. We had the kickoff at her house before the foundation was formed. They live in Eden Prairie. She's here with husband John, her son Matt, new wife Ellen, and they have Sarah at 29 years old now, and they live out in Eden Prairie. And then we have Patty Mevis, past board member, all the way out in Green Bay, here today with daughter Kira and husband Matt. So, past board member from a distance. Now, we also have some state reps that are here, and they are recognized under International Rett Syndrome Foundation. So they are your contact through IRSF for your state, but Patty is the rep for Wisconsin. And then we have Melinda Gebhard and Clark are here. They're in North Dakota, and she's the state rep there. I will say it's out on our board, but the North and South Dakota, if there's 20 families in each state, so it's not a lot, not surprising, but right. Yeah, they're around 16, 18, 19. So that's North Dakota, and then we have Matt and Ashley Doms still representing our board, but also state reps for the Minnesota folks. There is an Iowa coordinator. Is there anybody actually here from Iowa? I know one gal had to cancel, and I couldn't remember if she was our only one, so maybe not. All right, there is an Iowa rep as well. All right, and then not our foundation, but I'm bringing her up. Where are you, Mary? Mary Kallstrom, many of you know her. She is the Run, Walk, Roll coordinator that directly benefits IRSF. She's been doing that 17 years. Walk's coming up October 1st in Savage, Minnesota. That's listed on the board. But thank you, Mary. You play a very important role in Minnesota. Okay, so that brings us to the others in the room. And if you're comfortable, I do want you to stand because in the end, you're the biggest stars of today. But the people that were in the trial that got us debut. And there's several here, but again, I don't want to make you... if you don't want to be known. And I already called out Miss Teary-Eye here, but Julie Hackle, you be one of them. So Julie Hackle, stand up. She had, I'm gonna at least say this much because I know it, but Julie put Megan in the very first slot, if first or second, because we have others. Megan was part of that first phase right here at Gillette. Back then, you had to be 2 weeks inpatient to be studied. I believe. It was a long time ago. All right. Well, anyway, it was nonetheless inpatient. She did it, and that, you think, is 9 years ago this week? 9 years ago this week is when it officially got started as a trial, at least here in Minnesota. With her was Loria Elbers, if Lori is willing. Another Minnesota mom, daughter Carly. So thank you. We have the Franskas. Phase 2 participants. Very good. Is there others? The Streifels, I thought so. They've had Cora in. Okay. And obviously... Oh. Okay. So, and you're from where? Bird Island, Minnesota, another participant. And then, of course, our Green Bay connection, 2 phases. And I won't get into the details of what you had to go through, but she'd be an interesting woman to talk to at break. All right, so one more time, I want all of you standing up. You are our rock stars of the day. One more round of applause. So, there's no way in the world that we would have that drug if you didn't have people like that. If we don't step up and do something, we're never going to get anywhere, right? So I like to steal this from Kathy, and I'm kind of stealing it from Mary Kallstrom. But as we go through this journey, you can either be bitter about your diagnosis or you can do something to make it better. And holy cow, did you parents make it a lot better for your commitment and your stepping up. So thank you. All right, so we are going to transition to our morning panelists. This was all part of your materials in your folder. We have Dominique here as our scientific director, Dr. Fima, Dr. Bising from Gillette, and we've got Frank and Brianne from the University of Minnesota. We're going to work through all this morning. The topics, that's all in your folder. What I'm going to do my best to do is waffle along here with question and answer time. Dr. Fima, do you need to still depart?
Probably need to lift our talk, yeah.
Okay. So we may do questions after Tim's segment right away. You do have your folder of information. I do not have the slides in your folder, so take good notes. We're going to weave in a morning break, hopefully around 10:30. We remarked where the restrooms are in case, and I think they unlocked the one set of restrooms. So feel free. This is very much a come and go as you need to. I think they're leaving all the snacks and coffee out through break. All of our sessions, as I said, are getting recorded. So if you want to refer back or have other family members watch them, Brandon should have them as links maybe in a week or so. And yeah, just respecting our Q&A time, I'm going to try to make sure that all gets on the recording, so one at a time, and minimize side chatter. And that should be it. Oh, maybe that's because that's the end. All right, so up first is Tim.